Welcome back to Psychic Talk with Jay and Sarah. It's great to be back with you guys in this episode 18 on October 10th, 2025.
18. We've done 18 of these.
Yeah. And on our last podcast on September 22nd, it was my son's birthday, and today is my daughter's birthday.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a funny coincidence, too. And happy birthday, Hannah. Not that you would be listening by any means.
Just in case you are, happy birthday.
There's no way she'll be listening. Let me tell you something. She'd be too embarrassed to listen to her mother's podcast.
I can understand that. I can relate.
So the last time we were here, we were talking about UFOs.
Okay.
And I don't know that there have been a lot of or any more sightings since we last spoke. So do you know of any updates to that?
I don't know of any updates. I know that there's this disclosure movement going on, and a lot of people are trying to hold the government accountable to release information. And it's kind of weird watching it because in some of these compartmentalized areas of the government, they do know. But yet, in the world, it's, the so-called whistleblowers coming to them to shed light. So it's just an interesting dynamic because it's like they're not saying anything that the government truly doesn't know. Maybe the Congress people might not know everything.
Like you said, it's compartmentalized.
Very much, yeah.
It's on a need-to-know basis. I realized, too, that I had been calling that so-called comet, that 30, it's actually 3I Atlas, not 31 Atlas.
Okay.
So I need to make a little correction on my own, I just read about it. I'm not one to watch videos. A lot of people watch their news online, and I don't. I don't really want to do that. I just read it. I just quickly scan it.
Well, I can say something.
Yes, yeah.
So, it's always interesting when you have someone like from Harvard that is standing up, Avi Loeb, who's attaching his name to some of this speculation. I think that's credit-worthy, that there's something to look at, because a guy from Harvard or any other Ivy League, for that matter, they're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And the fact that they are is a sign of the times are changing.
Yes, times they are a-changing.
I mean, we've talked about John Mack, who, one of the scientists in our lighthouse, worked on his board. And this man did a lot of work helping people that have had contact experiences. And not only was he ridiculed, but, basically he was murdered, if you ask me. And now, fast forward a decade of time, and now you have another guy coming out of Harvard, and nobody's opposing him or saying anything, because in that decade, they've come to the understanding that, some of them, that there is a greater reality. And maybe we should have listened to John Mack,
I can't wait for more truths to come out. And so maybe on the next podcast, we can report some new things coming out. Look forward to it.
We're in that time period where a lot of truths are starting to be revealed across every venue. And I know you mentioned something about Lucifer and the goddess. And
are you surprised that that's the topic of our conversation today?
Maybe a little bit. Jeez.
What a great myth and misconception to dispel, right, about Lucifer and the goddess, because there's been so much deep propaganda against both of them.
Right.
And the irony is Lucifer and the goddess are one and the same. Lucifer is both male and female, but it's easier to talk about them as Lucifer and the goddess, because when they incarnate, and they always incarnate during times of transition, they're in human bodies, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them and, your next door neighbor.
Right. It's very, very fascinating. And a lot of the things that we, in this psychic talk, it's like peering into our work world when we're doing stuff. But, a lot of the things that we talk about is firsthand information or experiences that we've went through. So it's not like we read it out of a book and say, oh, here's some stuff about Lucifer.
Well, also it's in the Brill Society. It's information that is held sacred to us, and we've kept it secret for a long time. But we're living in the times of revelations, and humans really deserve to know the truth about things. And people might not like the truth, but ultimately the truth is going to set you free, right?
Well, true. And the reason why people might gristle or respond to sometimes the truth is that layer that's over their consciousness has to be taken off. Because if you have a knee-jerk reaction of, oh my God, Lucifer's evil, it just means that the brainwashing and the propaganda has taken root in that person.
Especially in the Christian tradition. Even though in the original biblical texts, Lucifer and Satan are two different beings, but somehow over time, and I don't know exactly when, but it was in the early Christian church, Lucifer and Satan became one and the same, but there is no historical significance to that. So what you have to ask, why did that happen? Certainly it was done strategically because Lucifer was a light being, a bringer of light, and compassionate and wise and here to help humanity. And Satan has been here to deceive humanity and keep them in bondage. So they're two different beings, but somehow Christians really, they see them as one and the same. And that's a big problem.
It
really,
is.
because to be deceived about that means you're deceived about the greater reality.
Right.
And you're easier to keep enslaved. Right?
100%. And it's like before you can really be free and evolved and liberated, you would have to know what binds you or keeps you asleep, or what the tactics that are used to keep you from evolving. And one of them, the big one, is fear. Let's create narratives about Lucifer so that people won't even seek that. They'll run away from it. And it's so crafty how they did that.
Just the name Lucifer is the bringer of light, and or the morning star, right? And Venus is the morning star, and Venus also represents the goddess. So Lucifer and the goddess are both here to bring light, which is illumination, which is love, which is truth, to rebel against blind authority, right? Rebel against the slaveholders, right? Not rebel against God. And I think that's another thing that was misunderstood or propagandized over time. So the myth about Lucifer is that Lucifer is evil.
Right.
Right. So we want to dispel that myth.
That's a tough one, because when you look out into the world,
you see a lot of evil.
Well, not only that, but like when you look into the New Age community or the UFO community people, and you hear people saying it's the Luciferians that are causing the problems. They're the ones doing all the sex trafficking and whatever spin they put on stuff. But the fact is, that's not true. There's no Luciferians doing that stuff.
Well, are the sex traffickers calling themselves Luciferians or Luciferic, or is this just a label you think that they've placed upon them, that they've just made up?
It's a grifting label, and they might believe it, but it just shows the folly on them, and that they don't really have the wisdom to understand the true bloodlines and what's really going on. And, like the Grateful Dead had a song, Friend of the Devil, right? Friend of the Devil is a friend of mine. And he says in that song, I ran into the devil and he loaned me $20. And then further down the song, he says, I ran into the devil and my money vanished in the air. And all that tells you is that, Lucifer's when it comes to money, he's reduced to a level, just like the guy that can lend you $20 and then he might need it next week, which says he's not the being that's making you sign contracts to give your soul away for material gain. That's not Lucifer, and so, and these other things about these Luciferic people, it's just unbelievable.
Well, why don't we talk about who Lucifer truly is, right? We know that Lucifer isn't evil. We know that Lucifer isn't Satan. We know that Lucifer isn't working with these sex traffickers and other characters in the cabal or that false Illuminati. Lucifer is not part of that. So what is Lucifer? Who is Lucifer? Right?
Well, he's the liberator. The goddess comes with Lucifer to set the groundwork for the return of their brother, really, which is Christ. And the goddess and Lucifer represent freedom and liberation, empathy and love and compassion and unity and bringing people together and freeing them. And, trying to erase the lies. And it's been an age-old, this is something that's from the beginning of time. This fight over humanity always has been and still is.
I mean, when you think about Lucifer or the goddess, or Christ for that matter, you think of spirits or apparitions or just like, someone way far away up in the sky or, the irony of it all is that they come in human form. They look just like you and me.
Even Satan.
Right. So it's funny how people like to put the labels on them that really aren't true. But you can see how a lie turns into even a greater lie, and it keeps getting corrupted over time, because this has been going back hundreds, if not thousands of years. I mean, the lies, right? So why don't we talk about a couple of the incarnations that Lucifer and the goddess have had, just for reference sake?
Well, even when we do, they're still going to attach Satan to all these things. The brainwashing is so deep. But Osiris and Isis.
Let's talk about that story, because Isis and Osiris were ruling family in Egypt back, I don't know how many thousands of years ago. But they were compassionate and wise and really generous with people and very loving. They had a hand in creating humanity. And they had a brother, Set, who really hated Osiris. And he had him killed. Before that happened, he actually created a coffin that only Osiris would fit into. And he said, whoever fits into this coffin, it's made for you. And Osiris climbed in, and sure enough, he fit. The lid closed, and I don't know exactly how this happened, but his body was taken from the coffin and torn into 14 pieces. And so Isis was devastated over this. This was both her brother and her husband. It was a family affair.
Yes.
And this is Lucifer and the goddess. And the brother Set is what people call today Satan. So his body was torn into 14 pieces and scattered throughout the earth. And Isis, in her grief, set out to find her brother. And she did. She got all the pieces together, and using magic, she actually put him back together. Except for one small detail. Or maybe it wasn't a small detail, I don't know. But if you guys know the story, you know what I'm talking about. His his phallus was missing. Okay? That was the 14th piece. But she took the 13 other pieces and put him back together. And from then on, he became the lord of the underworld.
Yes, he did.
Right? But before he did, they gave birth to a son, and that was Horus. And he was the great equalizer, the great healer. And so, Set wasn't really successful at destroying Osiris. But, it was quite destructive what he did. He just hated him so much. So there's somewhat of an allegory. Is it real? I believe they were actual beings in human form that were here. And Horus would be, as people know, Jesus Christ. And that was just one lifetime. They incarnated so many times to help humanity evolve. They were teaching people. And actually, Osiris, back during those times, he was teaching them how to farm. He taught agriculture. He actually taught law. He taught them about the judicial system. So he was really trying to help, or they were really trying to help humans become civilized.
A lot of the the allegories are based in truth, and they're repackaged over time because time goes by and civilization keeps moving, but it's always the same battle, whether it's Seth, Satan, or Enki, whoever you want to call him.
I think it was Enlil. I think Enki was good.
Enki?
Enlil was not good, if I know the story correctly. And what's interesting is the story of Enki and Enlil. Enki was a very compassionate ruler, and he loved the people. But Enlil couldn't stand the people. They were irritating to him. So he kept sending them plagues and cataclysms and all these things trying to destroy. And then finally he created a big flood. But Enki loved humans. And so I can't remember the character's name from that time, but he had him build an ark and put all of human genetic material into it so that the human race could carry on, because this flood was so destructive. And of course, that is a story in the Bible as well.
And that's Atlantis. That would be the fall of Atlantis, the flood. Is that right?
Well, there have been many, many cataclysms and floods in the earth plane throughout time, memorial, right? You have Mu, you have Lemuria, you have Atlantis, you have Tartaria, and probably so many other civilizations that I'm not even aware of. But, civilizations are built and civilizations fall. And why do they fall? Division.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys hear us talking about division in every single podcast.
Yeah.
Because that's a satanic agenda. It's not Luciferic at all. Lucifer and the goddess are always about unifying people.
That's right. That's right. Empathy and love.
Right.
And compassion. And you're right. The division is absolutely satanic. Division and greed, and that's what collapses the civilizations. That's why they only run for a couple hundred, maybe 400, so many odd years before the snake, that symbol of the snake eating its tail, is very satanic in its nature when you're not paying attention to greed and things like that. Should we share some of the information we have about Lucifer and the goddess in the sense of, not the tarot, but
Astaroth?
Astaroth. And
yes, I'd love to. In the Bible, Astarte was demonized, and people were warned against following goddess teachings because they said she was a demon. And her name got changed over time. So Astarte, and then it was Astaroth, and then it became Astaroth. But again, it became demonized, demonized, and evil to really scare people away. But prior to the biblical times, I mean, the goddess was the ruler, and she ruled with love and empathy, in healing, in unity.
Boy, if we could get back to that time, this world would be just an amazing little paradise on earth.
Well, I think that's the goal for the new world, really, is, you know, you talk about the bloodlines, and the bloodline for, you know, Lucifer and the goddess, the time is now. You know, they're back, they have incarnated, and they're here to help build a new world based on empathy and in peace and unity and healing.
And if they're successful at it, then their brother, which is Christ, will return. He's not here embodied as Lucifer and the goddess and these other Elohim families are, but depending on how humanity really unifies, he'll return. And so that's one of the missions that Lucifer and the goddess have.
Right, but and the way to get him here more quickly is to unify as a collective, you know, because if we can't unify, there's not really any hope for humanity.
Right.
You know, it's the sad truth. It's the only way for us to evolve as a species. And humanity is really, really divided. But there's hope, you know, because Lucifer would not be back incarnated if there wasn't hope for a new time, a new time of peace. And I think a lot of people wouldn't believe that these are actual real beings. Unless you're a religious person and you believe that there's a higher power, a God. A lot of people who don't subscribe to that at all and just believe that it's all about the human. They don't believe that there are other beings who are watching over humanity that are part of the evolutionary process. I think that would really shock people that they are actually here embodied, the creator gods.
I think so. I mean, who was that other musician, Bob Marley? He would say in one of his songs, "I know that my God is a living man." You know, some people reveal their truths, but they don't want to say too much. I mean, for Christ's sake, they gave him cancer in his foot, you know. So people do have these experiences, and there are secret societies that understand a lot of this stuff. It's like John the Baptist and Christ, another allegory situation.
Yes, and again, the propaganda about the goddess. You know, what do people think about, Christian people think about when they hear the name Mary Magdalene? They think prostitute. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But there's no historical significance to that accusation, you know, biblically. She was a follower, an acolyte of Christ, and according to the apocryphal texts, the Gnostic texts, she was like the best student, and she was also a teacher. And some of the other disciples were jealous. But she was very, very wise. And I think, you know, Jesus also learned from her, believe it or not. And so John the Baptist, that relationship, that's very interesting. I'm glad you mentioned it, because from what we understand, that was an incarnation of Lucifer. So John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene were the aspects, male and female aspects of Lucifer, and they incarnated with Christ. And it's interesting because they come prior to him, the Christ, right?
Always.
So what I love about that story too is that John the Baptist baptized Christ.
Yeah.
And they had a really close relationship.
Bloodline.
And Jesus learned from him.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But, you know, John the Baptist spoke truth to power. You know, he didn't like what King Herod was doing. And, you know, the story with Salome, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she asked her father, Herod, for John the Baptist's head on a plate, and there you go. So, you know, they incarnated at a time when greed, division, It was so rampant. I mean, you remember the story of Jesus turning over the tax collectors' tables, money collectors, because they were in the temple. And so he was angry, too, at the greed.
It's always the same old argument. It's
Right.
always greed and division that collapses everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when Lucifer is on the planet with his sister, the goddess, it's a time signature that is letting the world know that, guess what? You guys are going to fall if you don't change your ways. And
but people, I don't think people realize or even would consider that their civilization, where they're working and living and thriving, could collapse. Like in this country, people are so patriotic. They love this country, think it's the greatest country that ever was, yet it could collapse in a moment, truly. And that doesn't seem all that far away to me, because when you look out and see all the division.
And just everything out of control. I mean, this country, Lucifer incarnations of Caesar or incarnations of Osiris would never allow for outside influence to tell the kingdom what to do. In other words, the United States takes so much money from foreign people that come in and lobby and buy our politicians. That would be outlawed. There would only be money to come in from the temple, the country that you're in. So there's so many different things that have to change in reference of control and power. Because you can tell the small people in this country are being squozed. And anytime you have someone being squozed and feeling so destitute and...
You mean squeezed?
Squeezed or squozed. You can tell I had a lot of education in school. Anyway, you can tell my homeschooling really pays off. Yeah.
You know what? Jason's got his own vocabulary, and it's pretty cool, actually. You know? Hey, listen, you can create your own words.
Yeah.
Why not? People do it all the time. So, I'm sorry. So, you bring up Caesar, and that's another incarnation. So, Julius Caesar and Cleopatra was another incarnation of Lucifer and the goddess. And they had a child, Caesarean, and that was Christ. So, you want to dig into that? I mean, they were great rulers, right? Really powerful, trying to bring in light, trying to help humanity. And as everybody knows, famously from Shakespeare's play, Et tu, Brute, Caesar fell from being stabbed. Again, it's on repeat, these stories, right? But in this lifetime, I don't think that's going to happen, because the stars are aligned for Lucifer and Goddess to be successful in their endeavors. And what are their endeavors? To build something that people can hold on to that's true, right? And really learn about themselves so that you can be empowered and not have to submit to authority figures anymore who only want to keep you controlled.
Well, it's true. And Lucifer and the goddess, the reason why they're so much into liberation and freedom for humanity is because it frees them. They're just as stuck as the humans are. And so that's why it's always this fight. And, you know, the failures throughout time, like the Gnostics that lost to the Jesuits and the Catholics, the Templars who lost the same outfit. The stars are aligned differently now. In all those other incarnations, the stars were aligned for Satan, and he had jurisdiction. And his time is short now. So this is why the world is really, it's unbelievable. You know, it's nothing new. It comes to this conclusion every time. You know, they leave that out in the Catholic Wars. They didn't tell you how divided it really was. But in this case, like you said, there's a really good shot that the world does evolve and that freedom happens for all humanity. and the goddess and Lucifer will be free. And that's when Christ will truly come back to this world. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, and the main thing is if the human people could just not be divided, if they could think in terms of unity and stop blaming. The original accuser is Satan. He's the ultimate blamer. Always has someone to blame. And that's what he's taught humanity in his division. Oh, look at it's the blacks, it's the whites, it's the Jews, it's the Chinese, it's the this, it's the gays, it's the trans. It's always someone to blame. It's the Republicans, it's the Democrats. He loves that. It keeps humanity in bondage and never free. And that's one of the huge secrets, alongside greed. That's the other thing he loves. He's greedy to the bone, and that's what he's about. Greed and division. That's his kingdom.
It's so true what you're saying, because when you are so attached to one side or the other, it's like you're blind. You're blind to the truth, and you just can't see clearly. It's like, you're following your heart.
Right.
When your heart is blind. And once you take a neutral stance, you can see so much more clearly. And it really does help you open up your psychic centers. You become more intuitive. You have better insight, better clarity. You have more energy. And then the universe starts to speak to you more. So then you start to understand the truth more. So being neutral is so important for us as individuals to help us grow, but also as a species, right? Being neutral, it'll help us grow and evolve as a species. I think a lot of people are ready for this. And I know you said at the beginning of the podcast, oh, people aren't going to like this. There's so much negative about Lucifer. But I think, I don't know that the kids of today are really listening to the lies as much as we did when we were younger, or people our age. You know what I mean? They don't have the deep imprints that the adults have. So, and because there's so many children of light incarnating, I think the chances are really good that we will evolve and unify. And I'm just curious. I had a question for you, because so much information comes out of social media.
Yeah.
And that's really a good litmus test for consciousness. What is going on social media? So you're on more than I am. You love watching YouTube videos.
Most of it's the funny stuff.
TikTok. I know. He sends me videos all the time. And sometimes they're so dumb.
They're
I'm like,
so
why?
dumb.
I'm just curious what you see on social media about Lucifer. Is it just the Luciferic stuff that talks about the cabal and the greed and the control, and you see that Baphomet mask that some of these celebrities wear, which is so silly.
I don't know. I haven't seen much of anything, if anything at all, that aligns with what we're talking about. The only thing I see out there again is the Luciferic people are bad. Lucifer is Satan. Osiris. They even say Osiris is Satan.
Well, it's
bizarre.
Well, what's funny is it's like they're glomming onto an idea that someone created that's not based in truth. Because if you go back to any of the ancient texts, or even writers such as Blavatsky or Steiner, who are really, you could say, experts on the subject. Steiner was a master psychic. And he was, I think, really quite on point with, talking about Lucifer and Ahriman, which we call Satan, in Christ, right? So what am I trying to say? So what they call Luciferic is false. They're just grabbing at straws, and they're calling it something where it's truly satanic. But, it's funny, when people hear something like a word like that, they kind of glom onto it, and then they just keep using it. They don't even know what they're talking about.
Well, so much so that back to online, the Satan stuff and the Lucifer stuff, there's a couple branches of Satanists, and some of them claim that they're atheists, that they don't even believe in a Satan. Now, the real bloodline looks at them and says, oh, you fools you, but thank you for doing our work and getting out there and promoting us. But the reality is, Satan is a real being, and this world is dominated or has been dominated from that bloodline. And it's clear to see that. So I was also baffled when they said, oh, we don't believe in that. It's because they haven't met him yet. They have no idea. So when you meet them, you realize, oh, this is real, you know. So it's weird how people glom onto something and they have no true understanding that it's even real. Like, why would you say you're a Satanist if you just don't even believe in the mythical figure?
It just shows how devolved a lot of people are. Is that a word, devolved?
Mm.
But if you had a chance to meet Lucifer or the goddess in their human forms, people would they'd be blown away at how humble and kind they are. Mm. And they have such love for humanity and a desire to help. But they're also so sad. Mm. You know, if you look in their eyes, you would see the sadness and the burden that they carry and their true empathy. And just as I asked you about Lucifer, I sometimes will look for what people are saying about the goddess on social media, and there's a lot more truth that they're coming up with about the goddess. But as far as who she is, they don't really understand who she is. There's a lot of I am this and I am that. Like the goddess would say, I am so powerful, or I am so wise, or I don't know. She's not the type, and neither is Lucifer, the type to be bombastic or popular even,
right.
or in the spotlight. They would shy away from any kind of attention, and they don't talk in any kind of ego way like I am this or I am that. They deflect to other people. They stay behind the scenes. They're very gentle in their manner, very compassionate and very generous. And, they're in hiding, truly. And they don't have wealth. So to call these people, these elites in power, right, that are supposedly, making things happen, to call them Luciferic is really comical. Because, no, Lucifer has nothing to do with them. So they've stolen, again, and propagandized
their name.
They
really have. And sometimes different texts can give you clues. Even in the Bible, when they describe Lucifer or the morning star, they talk about all the crystals and all the sapphires and stones and things, which just symbolically means the goddess and Lucifer have the wisdom of the stones and crystals. When you look out into the crystal land or the New Age land, a lot of that, the original teachings, comes from the goddess and Lucifer. And they obviously wanted to shed light on the stones. Like, why was Lucifer wearing all these stones? Well, when you start to understand the wisdom of it, then you realize it.
Well, they want to empower people.
Right.
They want to give people their own wisdom, because they understand that every single human has a spark of the divine within.
That's right.
So you could say that the male aspect of Lucifer, that we just call Lucifer, is the divine masculine, and the goddess is the divine feminine, so it's the heart. And when they are together, they are really, really powerful. But every single human has both divine masculine and feminine within.
They do. And it's a separate being. It's a one being, but it's a separate being. It's not like the Baphomet where, that the Templars looked at, that was, woman boobs and just different. They're separate beings, but one, if that makes any sense. I know it's hard to comprehend.
Well, it makes sense because this is, in the third dimension, this is about duality. Sun and moon, male and female, positive, negative, dark, light. And, having both shows you the duality within Lucifer or within the creation. And what a beautiful thing that is. One being here would have to be either male or female, right? I guess Lucifer could be a hermaphrodite, but...
Well, right.
You know, and I think that they come to, you know, it's those allegories that people learn from too. You know, think about humans coming here to learn. Like, if you're just in a spirit body, you really don't know what it's like to have a sexual relationship with someone. You don't know what it's like to give birth to a child, right? So when you're in the human body, you learn all these things. So you have to have the male and the female.
Well, you bring up a good point. When you bring up the male and the female and you talk about the goddess, you bring it back to the original platform, which was goddess worship, which was also, when you have the goddess, you have Lucifer. And Lucifer adores the goddess. And the goddess taught humanity that women, the feminine part of the creation, were goddesses as well. And the womb was so important because when you look at a female giving birth, that's the vessel and the conduit of the metaphysics and physics coming together. The soul coming into the body through the womb comes through the goddess, the female. It doesn't come through male. The Christians and the Catholics and everybody else, when they changed the text and they conquered the goddess and they dismantled Lucifer, and we outgrew that into, they dropped the S and they put an H. They kept the word she, they just dropped the S, and they made everything patriarchal. That was the second wave that came after Lucifer fell with the goddess.
When you think about, you know, Eve being created from Adam's rib, it is so stupid.
It's comical.
You know, of course Eve gave birth, right? So it's funny how, and sad, how brainwashed people can be. But when you're taught these things from a very young age, it really, it's imprinted within you, right? Even though it doesn't make sense, you still believe it because it's something that you were told. And the younger you are, if you're a young soul, then you do what you're told. You know, it's not until you're maturing as a mature soul or an old soul that you start to question these things and say, wait a second here. How is it possible that a female was created from a male by using just his rib? I mean, that doesn't, you know, there's just no logic to it.
Well, not only that, and then the UFO people tie in aliens and say, oh, well, they upgraded the DNA and they did this. It's like, no, none of this is accurate. The goddess gave birth to humanity, and the womb takes the soul from the other dimension and brings it into this dimension. There's no need for an alien to figure this out or do that. It is what it is.
And what's amazing is that the womb that a woman has everything in it that a soul needs to obtain a human body. Every single thing is within the uterus, the womb. Isn't that incredible? It's really magical. So magical, in fact, that historically, like, menstrual blood was used as, you know, like in talismans for protection from men going off to war. It would heal the sick. It's something that they even ingested. So it's
a lot of stem cells.
So menstrual blood is really, really powerful. And I mean, but also painful. You know, menstruation is painful. Childbirth is extremely painful. But that's what a female chooses to go through to bring another soul into this plane of existence.
And with that said, the human, when they are born, they're born with the God spark, the spark of Lucifer and God and all that is. And Satan knows that. So his job is to fill your consciousness with division and divide you, because he knows that you can manifest. He knows that humans have the power to be free. And if they are free, then what's that say for him? So his job is to divide you and fill your brain, your data, your consciousness with information that you're going to therefore manifest. So in other words, he doesn't have to do much. He just throws an ember on the fire, like a little piece of kindling wood every now and then, just to get it crackling. Because he sits back and he realizes, hey, they bought into the narratives about black, white, Jew, this, that. And so I can sit back and let them continuously stay in this loop of hatred and division, which keeps my kingdom alive.
Imagine how that must feel to Lucifer and the goddess to have, to come in here and incarnate so many times only to be bastardized by this satanic being who created all these lies about them. Here they are to liberate, help, teach, love, and bring people together, yet they're accused of atrocities.
And it's
How
true.
must that feel?
It's horrible. And it spreads, the satanic agenda crosses all religions and politics. Because if Lucifer had his way, then all the religions would be coming together and helping together to liberate humanity. But they don't. They sit there and point fingers as well. Oh, well, it's the Muslims, it's the Jews, it's the Catholics. It's always somebody. And the truth is, it's nobody but Satan and his little minions, and the humans that are either bought or sold. Because Satan will buy you as well. That's part of the problem why humans get caught in snares, too.
Well, thank goodness we're in the time of revelations. And thank goodness we're in the time of transition. And we've hit this pinnacle, right, of evolution, where there's no turning back. And before a new civilization can be built, the old one does need to be destroyed. And that's where we're at right now. And it's very exciting. We are here to build a new civilization. Isn't that wonderful? Because it's going to be based on peace and equality and empathy. But you have to go through this time of transition, which looks like hell. It looks like hell on earth.
So when you said peace and liberation and all of this, so in other words, the Lucifer agenda, that's right. The real agenda, but boy, oh boy.
And Lucifer's not looking for any attention. Lucifer is just all about the mission, right? The agenda.
The agenda. Now someone might say, well, how do they know that? And what would you say to that?
What would I say to that? How do I know?
Yeah. How are you guys telling whoever's listening, where do you get your knowledge from about Lucifer? Like, how would we answer that?
Well, as we talked about before, we are part of the Vril Society, and this is information that we've held sacred for lifetimes. Every single lifetime that we are here, this is information that we just know. We have within us.
Just a lot of the Vril Society, or what we're involved with, is most of it is firsthand experiences. So it is what it is. Like, we're saying stuff because we've either seen it, know it.
We've interacted with them. Yes, we have.
So
yeah.
Very interesting.
It is very interesting.
And we're not the only ones, like I bring up that Grateful Dead, which is huge into Lucifer. That's the real truth of the matter.
So, in current events, you want to talk about current events a little bit?
Sure.
There's been peace talks in the Middle East between Hamas and Israel. And I know Trump's involved, and it seems to be underway. Now, I feel like that might be temporary.
Yeah.
Somehow. What do you think? It just feels temporary to me.
If this is a casino and we're going to make a bet, I'm going to bet that it's temporary. It'd be nice if it could turn into long term, but sometimes when there's communication between Satan and Lucifer, there's a time of peace to say, okay, let's stop fighting for a little bit. The world will reflect that. So as above, so below. So there's some kind of agreements being looked at in the family bloodlines for this to even be on the roster. And the fact that they're agreeing to it is a positive step. And I hope it lasts. But the bloodline families, you just don't know. You just don't know. So hopefully it will. I'm thinking it won't. I'm also thinking it's going to heat up more in the Russia and Ukraine side of things as well. So it's the same war anyway. Russia and Ukraine is just like Israel and Gaza. It's the same type of thing.
Except Gaza is not Ukraine. It would be Israel.
It would be Israel, right. It's the same bloodline situations above that Putin's dealing with, and Ukraine. It's all the same. It always comes back to bloodlines and small family squabbles.
Well, that's what confuses people, right? Because they just look at it as who's the leader of that country. It's him, right? It's just Putin. But as we know, we maybe talked about it just a little bit, there are other beings who have jurisdiction over different countries and different geographical regions.
That's right.
So there's also a very powerful bloodline in the Middle East that's not Israel.
Right.
And that would be Iraq and Iran. I know that Iran and Israel have had some warring stuff going on recently, and I think that's going to be heating up a little bit more coming up as well.
Yeah, you got to buckle in. We're definitely not done with this stuff.
Right, because we're in this big transition, right? So these are just signs of the transition, and as war goes on and heats up even more, there'll be more UFO sightings.
That's right.
More reports, so disclosure is still happening. I don't see it being full disclosure, but definitely in pieces. And it's great that the government is getting involved, even though they're certainly not telling people what's truly going on, but at least they're leaking stuff into mainstream media, which is really, really good.
Thank God.
How about maybe it's a good time for us to do the Karma Spotlight. What do you say?
My Karma Spotlight is for a woman named Emily Brown. She founded a place called Food Equality Initiative. After she had a lot of challenges with her own family's allergies. And this rings true to me because you know me, I suffer from dairy allergies, gluten allergies, and sulfites, so I'm very limited. So coming across her was excellent. She created a thing that provides affordable food for families with food allergies. Food allergy people are 2 to 10 times higher prices in the grocery store, even up to 1,000 times more.
Wow,
they can legally charge for this stuff. In 2015, she found the first allergy-friendly food pantry, specifically stocked with allergy-friendly and gluten-free food to meet the needs of those with celiac disease. She also started a subsidized direct delivery of groceries for qualified clients with food allergies, so people can go shopping for them and things like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I can see why you would choose someone like that, because that's like the bane of your existence. It's your allergies.
It truly
I'm telling
is.
you guys.
Oh man,
it's no joke. That's why he eats my soup, because I am a stickler about no gluten, no dairy.
No gluten, no dairy.
In his food.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I actually like gluten-free, dairy-free food too myself. So my pick for the Karma Spotlight is Rick Steves.
Who's Rick Steves?
And I'm laughing because I was, Rick Steves, if anybody watches PBS stations, he is the Mr. Travel Guy. He's written many, many travel guides.
Okay.
And he's got programs on TV all the time. So I had been watching a show on Netflix, and I think I just turned the channel to just some random station. And he came on, and in this program, he went to Ethiopia.
Oh, okay.
And he wasn't talking about places to go in Ethiopia for people to see, museums or buildings of interest or anything like that. The only reason why he did this show was to highlight poverty.
Oh, wow.
He wanted to talk about poverty around the world and speak to people who are going through it, the challenges, and see what they actually needed. And it wasn't just that show, because in every travel show, he does like to point out that traveling around the world and meeting people of different cultures is a great way to unify people and really, evolve and understand one another. And he's very loving and compassionate in his approach. But I thought that was pretty cool. And I knew you'd like that too.
Yeah.
And he's just an all-around really nice guy. You can tell he's got good karma. He's just got really good energy. And so he wanted to shine a light on what people experience who are impoverished. Because most of the time, it's certainly not in a travel show, are they going to go into the poor neighborhoods?
Right.
And that's what he did. So
good for him.
He's got my karma award for this week.
That's a great reward. That's excellent.
So is that it for today?
I think so.
Jason?
I mean,
I think we just kind of, I don't want to say we scratched the surface about the goddess and Lucifer, but there's so much more to talk about. So we'll do another episode on them.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if there's interest in that, I mean, this is pretty big stuff.
It is. It's a deep topic. Because, they were involved in the creation of humanity. And, I mean, it doesn't get any deeper than that.
And you're really not going to access that information and knowledge by looking out into the world, because you're only going to find, that Lucifer is a bad demon and so on and so forth. And we're able to share this because we're not bound by oaths or various other societies that would never share this stuff with people.
And we feel people deserve to know.
That's right.
Right? Because we're all creator gods. We all have the spark of the divine within.
That's right.
And we will not evolve unless we really understand that we have the power to break free from this matrix and believe in ourselves and our own sovereignty and know that we're all one as one human race. That is the key. So I look forward to talking about that more in the podcast.
That sounds great. That sounds good.
All right. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. And thank you to Aniana Bagai for helping us produce this podcast.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Music is by Flint, and we're from Metaphysical Lighthouse, where psychics and scientists work together to build a better world.
The Lighthouse.
See you next time.
Bye now.